Hey, Flimsy Lunch Tray here today, and in today's video, I actually want to go ahead and give my final thoughts on the Commander Rework, the update that we experienced in 0.10.0. I did do a first impressions video, I think like the day or two after 0.10.0 hit, and then I've just been kind of just observing, testing things out, getting player feedback, seeing what other WoW's YouTube content creators have been saying before throwing in my own thoughts, as now we are just into 0.10.3. So yeah, I haven't really discussed this on the channel since 0.10.0 hit. And one of the reasons why I want to go ahead and talk about kind of final thoughts on the Commander Rework is related to the development blog that Wargaming recently released on April 9th on the changes to the commander skills that we're going to find in 0.10.4. So I'm going to throw that up on the screen, and I'm trying to think if I want to talk about that first, because it'll be a slight bit of me rambling a little bit, but I'll do my best to keep the argument or conversation discussion flowing relatively well. So let's just go ahead and look at the commander skills first. Now, one of the things that happened with the commander rework is that you can use the same commander on all ship classes. So as you can see here, I have this like skills for battleships, and I can spec my commander for destroyers, cruisers, battleships, aircraft carriers, which I don't have him set up for aircraft carriers because I don't play aircraft carriers that often. And when I do, I'm bad. So I just tend to stay away from aircraft carriers for the time being. But you can see the different skill specs. Originally somewhere you could actually see submarine, like the icon. But I'm not seeing that right now. Because submarines will be coming, just a matter of when. But yeah, you can go through, you have one commander, like I had this Benjamin Blackwell that came with Massachusetts. I built him up, and then I also use him on other commanders, or other ships. So let's just talk about what were the primary changes with the commander rework and what is going to be changing, and I only have a few positives about the commander rework. Most of it's negative, if I'm being honest. So one of the positives was you can use a commander on multiple ships, and especially if he's a special commander, as you can kind of see down here. I don't have a commander on my West Virginia, my Kidd, my Anchorage, my Alaska, my Georgia. I use this one commander on all these different ships. And I'm not saying that as a good thing. I mean, it is nice because special ship, special commander, you can just throw them all around. It's because I'm trying to get my commander to a 21 point level. I had him as a 19 point before 0.10.0 went live. I had 3 commanders at 19 points, and my elite commander XP was starting to rein in. But then when 0.10.0 hit, that's mostly come to a hold. So right now I actually have him up to a 20-point commander, and we're almost 200,000 XP earned, and we still have a lot more to go. Because if my memory serves correctly, was it 500,000 to get to 20? Yeah, so to get to 20 points, you had to have 500,000 commander XP was required, and then once you get to the 21 point, takes 700,000. So that's 1.2 million commander XP that you need to earn. So that's why I don't have commanders on these other ships. It's because I've been using the same commander for all these different ships since 0.10.0 came out in order to earn commander XP faster. So I at least get one 21 point commander and start earning more elite commander XP. Because I don't want to use this build on, well, not necessarily on my Georgia. I have a different commander that I want to use on my Georgia, but I just had to take them off because I need to get to 21 points soon, sooner rather than later. In one of my biggest critiques about when they upped it from a 19 to 21 point build, and then they reshuffled some of the cost of, priority target used to be 1 point, superintendent used to be 3 point. It's basically made, you're getting the same thing with 21 point captain as you did with 19 point captain. The commander rework was kind of sold to us players as, look at these new great things you're going to be able to do. You're going to be able to build different types of builds. There's going to be a variety, and you can invest in that. But as we realized, once 0.10.0 hit, there was only one build that was really worth investing in, and that was the, building for range and with Deadeye, right? But now we know Deadeye is going to be leaving as of 0.10.4, but I'll talk about that shortly. But with the commander rework, one of the main reasons they did commander rework too, among several things, was for submarines, because, maybe 10% or 20% of the current, of the previous commander skills would actually translate over onto submarine commanders. So that was another reason why they did the commander rework, to expand. Which I don't have an issue with that. What I have more of an issue with was, one, is that they revalued some of the point skills. I mean, priority target was an excellent skill for 1 point. Now it's 2 points, and I personally love having priority target on Massachusetts. And then they took what used to be called Superintendent, which gave you additional consumables, and then they broke it up, and then now it's called Emergency Repair Expert, because originally Superintendent added an additional consumable for each of your. So you'd also, not only would you get an additional repair party, you would also get an additional spotting aircraft or fighter, as an example, with the Battleship build. But they broke that up where now I don't get an extra consumable. So they tore that apart. You look at where you had basic fire training and advanced fire training, BFT, AFT. And that would increase your secondary reload rate. And then you had advanced fire training, which would improve your secondary, or increase your secondary battery range, and then accuracy, I believe it was. Maybe it was just it. I can't remember. It's been so long. It's been 3 updates ago since we had AFT, right? But I think it just increased your range is what advanced fire training did, because you'd have Atlanta players want to take that to get their range out. And then you had what was secondary manual firing control, and now that is called improved secondary battery aiming. So essentially this is like, I think this was like the advanced fire training. If I'm saying this wrong, you can correct me in the comments. But you basically lost basic fire training when you're thinking of even destroyers. They shuffled things around, right? So you have this, which I like having, 11.3 kilometer secondary firing range for Massachusetts. But then one of the things that they did with the improved secondary battery aiming, right, was instead of getting, 60% maximum dispersion, or negative 60% maximum dispersion of your secondary battery when you left control clicked a target, you'd get that fantastic boost to your secondary accuracy, but your secondaries would only fire from one side. So players complained about, hey, I should be able to do this from both sides of my ship. Why can only one side of my secondaries fire and not both? Because, you can't make the realism argument with an arcade game. It's hard. So a lot of players and community contributors, complained about that, and they're like, okay, well, you can now fire secondaries from both sides of your ship, but we're going to nerf the secondary accuracy, which the Americans, the French got hit hard. The Germans didn't get hit as hard because Wargaming gave them a buff before 0.10.0 went live. But they still have a slight nerf, just not as bad as what it could be. Because if I try to go with a full secondary build on the Massachusetts, I can hardly hit a destroyer 8 kilometers away. I can link a video in the description showing you what Massachusetts looked like before 0.10.0, before the command rework. And I had 4 close quarters combat in one battle, where you can see, I think there's a destroyer for 1400 HP, 1 secondary salvo kills him. Right now, I'm just praying that the shells hit. So it makes it really hard to even consider taking secondaries when Wargaming basically killed the brawling secondary builds for battleships. So that's, I play my Massachusetts a lot less than I used to. Even my Georgia, it's just not the same. I play destroyers and cruisers increasingly more than what I used to. So they revalued these skills, they broke them apart, they called them different names. We're like, this used to be called Expert Loader, this used to be called Turret Traverse, this used to be called Manual Secondary Firing, Advanced Fire Training, like just all these things we did the skills and stuff. But the fact that, to get a 21 point commander is basically the same as what you could get for a 19 point. Because, ideally I like to play priority target, then I'd take turret traverse. But as you can see now, I have 1 point available, and what am I going to do my last 2 points on? Well, I'm probably going to give up Grease the Gears on my Massachusetts, because I use priority target. I abuse it really bad, in a good way, particularly with destroyers, and just take close quarters combat as an example. So I can get that main battery reload time is mostly what I have in mind there. So you have that. So let me go ahead and read the development blog, and I'll throw screenshots of that up here on the screen as well. So again, this was from April 9th, and this is changes to the commander skills happening in 0.10.4. We talk about the first changes in the updated commander system and share our future plans. Please note that all information development blog is preliminary. Announced adjustments and features may change multitude times during testing. The final information will be published on our game's website. Commanders, we thank you for your feedback. Ha 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 ha. Which, together with the statistics collected, helped us identify directions for improving the skill system. We want to tell you about the first planned changes and about the further changes of the development commander skill system. In update 0.10.4, we plan to make the following balance changes. Cruiser skills. So let's jump over to cruiser skills. Survivability expert. The hit point bonus for each ship tier has been increased from 350 to 450. The enhanced skill has increased its hit points bonus from 400 to 500. So that's like if you have a special commander and they get a special bonus to their survivability. Destroyer skills. Extra heavy AP shells. Damage of main battery AP shells increased from 5 to 7.5%. Fearless Brawler was it removed the penalty. Oh, they're going to remove the penalty from the ship's detectability range, because Fearless Brawler right now is a skill where you get an increased one shell number of shell explosions in your AA salvos. You get one more. And then you had a plus 5% nerf to your ship's detectability range. But the thing was, it can be activated skill of Fearless Brawler as an attack skill, was that the main battery reload time drops by negative 10%. Now they're taking out the penalty of the ship's detectability, because a lot of players weren't taking that skill, unless you're something like maybe a Kleber, or you just don't necessarily have good concealment to begin with, to a certain extent with Destroyer, and you just want to focus on maximizing your DPM with your guns. Then you had aircraft carrier skills, enhanced reactions. So the 25% penalty to the action time of the patrol fighters or interceptor consumables has been replaced with a 25% bonus. When I first, as the skills in the game, like enhance reactions with patrol fighters or interceptor consumables activated, the time it takes to start attacking hostile aircraft is reduced. So time before attack is negative 80%. Arrival time is the nerf of plus 50%, And then the action time of the consumable was reduced by negative 25%. So a lot of players, aircraft carrier players, weren't taking that because of that nerf to the action time, but now they replace it with a 25% bonus. So they've gone in the opposite direction with that. And then you had with Battleship skills, you have super heavy AP shells. So that's a 3-point skill. Damage of main battery AP shells increased from 5 to 7.5%. Fire extinguishing time and flooding recovery time reduced from 30 to 25%. So that skill itself is still just, it's bad. It's not a good skill to take. Yeah, they decided to, the problem with this skill, it's not so much that the 5% increased damage to your AP shells was bad. It's the nerf with the skill of the fire extinguishing time and the flooding recovery time. So basically, you're going to burn for longer, you're going to flood for longer, and by so much so that it's a nerf by an additional plus 30% of increasing your burn time and your flooding recovery time. That's terrible. Like, you do not want to take that skill because of how bad it was. And so Wargaming decided to reduce that from 30% to 25%, which is still terrible. It's not good. And so then they sweeten up the armor piercing shells damage, increase from 5 to 7.5%. If Wargaming really wants to have this skill and like make it better or make it where more players are taking it, they really need to drop the fire extinguishing time and flooding recovery time down further, because it's just terrible right now. So that skill, as I think, is still going to need more work, but we'll see. And then the last was the Deadeye Skill. So skill change to Swift and Silence means they're completely taking Deadeye out of the game, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. And so the skill they're changing it to, it's going to be called Swift and Silence, which is what you already get with your destroyers. And so it increases your ship's speed by 10% while she remains undetected. So that is also a pretty bad skill to change that to. I mean, it makes more sense maybe with destroyers if you're, because you spend a lot of time undetected for the most part. But for battleships, you're not remaining undetected so often. Maybe the first 2 minutes of the battle you're undetected or something. Or if you just want to reposition to different part of the map, that's really only where that little skill will come into being helpful. But as is, that's bad. Like, they could change it to something else that would be more beneficial. So let's say, a lot of players have been complaining about the camping meta of battleships, which Wargaming, let's be honest, Wargaming's been moving more to a sniping meta with battleships for some time now. And maybe they want to counter the more sniping camping meta and change it to something where you get a buff to your brawling capabilities when you get closer. I mean, I would say secondary accuracy, but honestly, they need a buff secondary accuracy. I'm really salty about the nerf to secondary accuracy because it's not the same as it was before 0.10.0. So they really do need to put secondary accuracy back to what it was before, in my opinion. And that would really help and go a long way, I think, a lot in players' minds, because a lot of brawling battleship players have been unhappy with that nerf. I think Potato Quality, he actually gave a good few examples of what Wargaming could do. I can't remember what they were, but you can go check out his video on rambling about the Commander rework and Deadeye and so on and so forth. So one of the things with Deadeye is that when Wargaming was going to do these commander skill changes, the community contributors were some of the first who got to see this back in the fall of 2020, and a lot of community contributors pointed to Deadeye and say that's not going to be good for the game. That's bad. That's a very bad skill, we think, and some were not even favorable of the commander rework as a whole. But a lot of them pointed to Deadeye being bad. And so Wargaming heard this, they valued the community contributor feedback and they put it in the game. And now 3 months later, Wargaming, or 4 months later, and Wargaming's like, oops, that was a mistake. Need to take that out. After players, a lot of players complained about it, because it seems like this is what I used to think. I used to think if the player base complained and they caused such a firestorm about something they disagreed with Wargaming, that's what it took for Wargaming to change their minds and go in a positive direction, like, dumpster fire at the Puerto Rico, the dumpster fire that's been there, present with Deadeye. But it's not that. It is the profit. So when Wargaming implements changes and all of a sudden they notice a loss in profit, they notice players leaving the game, players want their money back for certain ships, all these things, the negative publicity they get for players saying, I don't recommend this game to my friends, that also contributes to loss of potential profit. Then Wargaming's like, oh, no, we need to change. We need to change what we've done so we can get our profit margins back. So it's that. So going back to the development blog, we strengthened the foregoing skills as they were conceded to other skills of similar cost in terms of combat effectiveness, which also affected their popularity. We decided to replace Deadeye with a skill that enhances battleship positioning capabilities. Swift and Silence will allow battleships to quickly enter the battle or change positions during the battle. With the release of 10.4, all commanders who have learned Deadeye will have battleship skill reset for free. Skills of other classes won't be reset. So if you have Deadeye as part of your commander build for your battleships, you will get a free reset. However, if you don't have Deadeye mastered, then you're not going to get a free reset. Which honestly, I think all Battleship players should get a free reset, because a lot of players have made builds revolving around Deadeye or anti-Deadeye. And to me, it's not fair to a certain extent. Flammy talked a little bit more about that recently, and you can check out his video. I think he talked about it in his Damage Republic video that he posted several days ago. So further steps. This is where we need to take potential notice at. So the next skill changes are not planned until autumn. So that means if Wargaming is going to do any other changes to the commander skills, it's not going to happen until the autumn. It's not going to happen until the fall, which is rather annoying, especially when I think about secondaries in mind. As improvements and reworks take time to develop and test, we will work to balance a number of skills and try to improve or replace the most unpopular skills. So that tells you that Wargaming notices that they have unpopular skills with the commander rework. I'm looking at certain skills on Battleship, like the super heavy AP shells, with aircraft carriers, even with cruisers, destroyers. They've noticed that, and they've stepped up to decide they need to make some changes. Over the last few updates, we have been collecting statistics and feedback on how the updated skills have affected the game balance. After the changes in 0.10.4, we plan to focus on the state of individual ships most affected by the skill system update and make changes if needed. So maybe that means something like, certain battleships that really struggle with Sigma, let's say, or dispersion. There are certain ships that really needed Deadeye to help them out, like Roma. I'm trying to think. The Philandria, the Marco Polo, like those ships really need Deadeye to be more effective. But does that mean Wargaming's going to try to help those ships out? We're planning a free skill reset for all players as part of the second phase changes expected in autumn. So there's that at least happening. So let's just talk about a few positives real quick when it comes to the commander skill rework. One of the things I like is about the commander management. When I'm looking at an American ship nation and I want to change commander, I don't want to do that on my Massachusetts because I'd hate to do that accidentally. I can pull up this list and I can see, what ships do I have in reserve and what do I have currently on other ships. So, when I'm on, if I switch to Alaska and I want to take Alaska into battle, all I have to do is click Recall Commander. It gives me an example of what ship I have been using on the Alaska as of late, which is my Massachusetts captain with a cruiser build. And now I get to go in battle. So it means having less commanders that are 21 points to a certain extent. But that depends upon how many premium ships you have, where you get to actually abuse that more effectively. Another thing that I really liked was the fact that, let's see, can I give an example of that with any of the ships I have right now? Well, one of the things I like is when you go to assign a commander, I can still give an example, is that you can see what the build will be like before finalizing it. So when let's just pop up AA as an example. So let's say I have 10 points right now on my Bourgogne commander, Charles Henry Honore? I don't know. But if I want to see, I want to make an AA build. I'm just giving a dumb example. An AA build with my Bourgogne, I can select, and I get these little triangle boxes, and I get to see the difference. Like, it's going to give me a 39 plus bonus, or additional 39 buff to continuous AA damage, and also for damage by shell explosions gets increased. Expert AA marksman, we can see that there's another triangle there, but it's not showing anything. Yeah, you get these. You can see what the build's going to look like before you get done. So that's really nice. Even if you're looking at destroyers, like I want to increase my fill the tubes reload time, I can already see that there's this triangle, and my torpedo reload time is getting buffed, reduced by negative 7.7 seconds. If I want to make my torpedoes faster, now they're going to go 60 knots. So it gives you these examples, and then you can get to click Master. So I've liked that. I've liked the just being able to have these different windows where you can see the different builds for a commander. I don't have to take my Agile commander and then move him to a cruiser before I get to see what his cruiser build is. I don't have to worry about doing that. And it's different. I like it. I think it's cleaned up. The commander management. It's nice that you get these different builds, that they've kind of specialized the types of builds you get with different commanders. But at the same time, I've disagreed with how they revalued, how they've restructured skills, how they've broken certain skills apart. So instead of I used to be able to buy this skill for 3 points with these skills combined, but now after the commander rework, they broke those apart, and I have to spend 5 points to get those same 3 points before. So then it makes that 21-point commander the same as a 19-point commander. It just it makes your head scratch. And then one of the things I don't like, it's a little thing, but you have your elite commander XP up here. It's so small. I don't like it. I think it used to be like you could see it over here or something before the commander rework, but it was a lot larger, and that's just me. They need to make it bigger or something, because at first, when I was trying to find my elite commander XP, I'm like, where is it at? I can't find it. Yeah, so there's that. So I really think that's the only positive things I can say about the commander rework as a whole. The negatives I have is that some skills are just absolutely terrible. Like, it makes you wonder if, like, the question gets posed, does Wargaming play their own game? When you have those super heavy AP shells for battleships, that's just insane. And then all of a sudden you look and you have a plus 30% increase to your fire extinguishing time and your flooding recovery time. Who's going to take that? Yeah, hardly anyone. It was an unpopular skill, so Wargaming had to buff it. You had to wonder, why did Wargaming introduce Deadeye? It rewards camping, rewards sitting in the back. It moves to the sniping meta, which Wargaming seems to be moving to as they move away from a more brawling secondary action in the game, as it seems. And you got to see the fallout of Deadeye in the game, and now they're taking it out. So it's not like Wargame is, oh, we're gonna nerf it to -5% maximum dispersion of the main battery shells. It's like, no, this has been so bad for the game that we're taking the skill out completely and replacing it with another skill that's kind of crappy in my opinion, but not as crappy bad as Deadeye was. I don't have it on any of my ships. One of the reasons I don't have it on any of my ships is because, well, I could put it on a few of them, but I don't have as high point commanders, and just I'm more of a brawling battleship guy. I don't like camping and sitting in the back. With with Deadeye, with the nerf to secondaries, and making it more expensive to build more survivability on battleships, they've done away with brawling builds to a certain extent. When you brawl now, in a game, you have to be looking for the window of opportunity of when you can push in and do that. If you do it, usually it means you're using islands as a battleship player to push up in when enemy players have made a mistake. Like there was a ranked match where there was it's the tier 9 Italian battleship. I'm spacing its name right now. He made a mistake. I was in Massachusetts. He comes around the island. I'm less than 2 kilometers away from him. 3 16-inch shells. Citadel kills him completely, and then I pushed in, and then I did a drive-by on an Iowa who is just sitting in further back behind. So it's really opportunistic when you are looking for those windows of brawling. But they've nerfed the brawling builds. It's harder to do what you used to do in the game, right? I think even for the cruisers, you used to be able to get fire prevention for cruisers. They did away with that, but now we see that they're going to buff the survivability expert, so you get some more health pool increase for each ship tier. So you have that, and you have the other negative point of the 21-point build is the same as the 19-point build for most all ship classes. I'm not sure how much with destroyers. How far we can go to say that. I mean, we can say it definitely for battleships and cruisers and even arguably aircraft carriers. But when we look at destroyers, we have this skill Dazzle, which to me is not worth taking. I'd rather focus on other aspects of my destroyers. Destroyers didn't get hit as hard as battleships, cruisers, and aircraft carriers did to a certain extent. I think battleships were affected most, and if there was a runner from the commander we work, I would say possibly destroyers were the ones who came out the least unscathed. The grind for a 21-point build is insanely long. You got to earn 1.2 million additional commander XP now. In my mind, if you had a 19-point build, 19-point captain, when 0.10.0 went live, those captains should have automatically been buffed to 21-point captain. That's, in my mind, I think that would have been the best possible. That would have been a very nice thing for Wargaming to have done, but when... I'm not going to say anything about what I just said. But it's made it more of a pain for players, and now a bunch of players had to utilize special flags, special signals, where they had to go in with looking at their economic flags, adding some things that's going to help buff, I think, your commander XP. Where's that one at? XP per battle. Yeah, like the Zulu Hotel, or you have the Dragon special signal, commander XP boost by 330%, or different camouflages, like Asian Lantern, boosts your commander XP by 555%. Only have one of those left. So it's made that 19-21-point grind so much longer, and it takes longer to get from a 19-point commander to a 21-point commander than it does to go from 1 to 19. Like, that's just how bad it is. So, as in closing, because this video's already gone over 30 minutes. In closing, how much of a success would I say the Commander Rework build has been? In my personal opinion, I don't think it's been a very great success. You already see Wargaming undoing things that they have done with the Commander Rework. You've seen a lot of players, more players than I think normal after that update went live that left the game. Of course, Wargaming is always doing their best to entice new players to play the game. And it increased that camping meta. You know, Deadeye was basically the straw that broke the camel's back. And you have brawling players, you know, who just don't... It's hard to make brawling work since 0.10.0. You have to be looking for those windows of opportunity. And for me as a I really like playing brawling Battleship players, and it's hard for me to find those windows of opportunity. Again, I'll have that Massachusetts video pre-Commander rework where I think in that battle I got 7 kills, 4 close quarters. You know, at the Kraken, I'm assuming there was I had double strike and probably a Confederate or high caliber in that battle as well, because I took a gamble, I took a risk. And now it's hard. It's impossible. You can't do what I did in that battle because of how secondaries have been nerfed and other things within the game as well. But the only really great positive I'd say is just the commander management system. I think that's nice. I do like that, and being able to use a commander on multiple different ship classes. So. Yeah, so I'm curious to know what you guys think, especially you brawling Battleship players. You know, if you have something like the Massachusetts, you have a German, you know, something like an Odin, a Kurfürst. Just to get your thoughts on what you guys think about, now that the dust has settled somewhat more since 0.10.0, what your thoughts have been. Have you liked the Commander rework of 0.10.0, or have you not liked it? So you tell me, and we can maybe have more of a discussion about it in the comments. So, if you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe if you want to see more. And if you haven't subscribed, thanks so much. I really appreciate growing the community here with you guys and gals. So until next time, take care.